Buddha nature, the mind of purity. Among humans, there are many kinds of degrees of mentality. Some are wise, some are foolish, some are good natured, some are bad tempered, some are easily led, some are difficult to lead, some possess pure minds, and some have minds that are defiled. But these differences are negligible when it comes to the attainment of enlightenment. The world is like a lotus pond filled with many varieties of the plant. There are blossoms of many different tints. Some are white, some are pink, some blue, some yellow. Some grow underwater, some spread their leaves on the water, and some raise their leaves above the water. Mankind has many more differences. There is the difference of sex, but it is not an essential difference, for with proper training, both men and women may attain enlightenment. To be a trainer of elephants, one must possess 5 qualifications: good health, confidence, diligence, sincerity of purpose, and wisdom. To follow the Buddha's noble path to enlightenment, one must have the same 5 good qualities. If one has these qualities, then regardless of gender, it is possible to attain enlightenment. It need not take long to learn Buddha's teaching, for all humans possess a nature that has an affinity for enlightenment. In the practice of the way to enlightenment, people see the Buddha with their own eyes and believe in Buddha with their own minds. The eyes that see Buddha and the mind that believes in Buddha are the same eyes and the same mind that until that day had wandered about in the world of birth and death. If a king is plagued by bandits, he must find out where their camp is before he can attack them. So, when a man is beset by worldly passions, he should first ascertain their origins. When a man is in a house and opens his eyes, he will first notice the interior of the room, and only later will he see the view outside the windows. In like manner, we cannot have the eyes notice external things before there is recognition by the eyes of the things in the house. If there is a mind within the body, it ought first to know the things inside the body, but generally people are interested in external things and seem to know or care little for the things within the body. If the mind is located outside the body, it should not be in contact with the needs of the body, but in fact the body feels what the mind knows and the mind knows what the body feels. Therefore, it cannot be said that the human mind is outside of the body. Where then does the substance of the mind exist? From the unknown past, being conditioned by their own deeds and deluded by two fundamental misconceptions, people have wandered about in ignorance. First, they believe that the discriminating mind, which lies at the root of this life of birth and death, was their real nature, and second, they did not know that hidden behind the discriminating mind they possessed a pure mind of enlightenment, which is their true nature. When a man closes his fist and raises his arms, the eyes first see it and the mind discriminates it, but the mind that discriminates it is not the true mind. The discriminating mind is only a mind for the discrimination of imagined differences that greed and other moods relating to the self have created. The discriminating mind is subject to causes and conditions. It is empty of any self substance, and it is constantly changing. But since people believe that this mind is their real mind, the delusion enters into the causes and conditions that produce suffering. A man opens his hand and the mind perceives it, but what is it that moves? It is in the mind, or it is in the hand, or it is neither of them. If the hand moves, then the mind moves accordingly. The vice versa, but the moving mind is only a superficial appearance of mind, it is not the true and fundamental mind. Fundamentally, everyone has a pure, clean mind, but it is usually covered by the defilement and dust of worldly desires which have arisen from one's circumstances. This defiled mind is not of the essence of one's nature. Something has been added like an intruder or even a guest in a home, but not its host. The moon is often hidden by clouds, but it is not moved by them, and its purity remains untarnished. Therefore, people must not be deluded into thinking that this defiled mind is their own true mind. They must continually remind themselves of this fact by striving to awaken within themselves the pure and unchanging fundamental mind of enlightenment. Being caught by a changing, defiled mind and being deluded by their own perverted ideas, they wander about in a world of delusion. The disturbances and defilements of the human minds are aroused by greed as well as by its reactions to the changing circumstances. The mind that is not disturbed by things as they occur, that remains pure and tranquil under all circumstances, is the true mind and should be the master. We cannot say that an inn disappears just because the guest is out of sight, neither can we say that the true self has disappeared when the defiled mind, which has been aroused by the changing circumstances of life, has disappeared. That which changes with changing conditions is not the true nature of mind. Let us think of a lecture hall that is bright while the sun is shining, but is dark after the sun goes down. We can think of the light departing with the sun and the dark coming with the night, but we cannot so think of the mind that perceives lightness and darkness. The mind that is susceptible to lightness and darkness cannot be given back to anybody. It can only revert to a truer nature, which is its fundamental nature. It is only a temporary mind that momentarily notes changes of lightness and darkness as the sun rises and sets. It is only a temporary mind that has different feelings from moment to moment with the changing circumstances of life. It is not the real and true mind. The fundamental and true mind, which realizes the lightness and darkness, is the true nature of man. The temporary feelings of good and evil, love and hatred that have been aroused by surroundings and changing external conditions are only momentary reactions that have their cause in the defilement accumulated by the human mind. Behind the desires and worldly passions which the mind entertains, there abides clear and undefiled the fundamental and true essence of mind. Water is round in a round receptacle and square in a square one, but water itself has no particular shape. People often forget this fact. People see this good and that bad, they like this and dislike that, and they discriminate existence from non existence, and then being caught in these entanglements and becoming attached to them, they suffer. If people would only give up their attachments to these imaginary and false discriminations and restore the purity of their original minds, they both their minds and their body would be free from defilement and suffering. They would know the peacefulness that comes with that freedom. Buddha nature. We have spoken of the pure and true mind as being fundamental. It is the Buddha nature that is the seed of Buddhahood. One can get fire if one holds a lance between the sun and moksha. But where does the fire come from? The lens is at an enormous distance from the sun, but the fire certainly appears upon the moksha by means of the lens. But if the moksha would not have the nature of kindle, there would be no fire. In like manner, if the light of Buddha's wisdom is concentrated upon the human mind, its true nature, which is Buddhahood, will be enkindled, and its light will illuminate the minds of the people with its brightness, and will awaken faith in Buddha. He holds the lens of wisdom before all human minds, and thus their faith may be quickened. Often people disregard the affinity of their true minds for Buddha enlightenment and enlightened wisdom, and because of it are caught by the entanglement of worldly passions, becoming attached to the discrimination of good and evil, and then lament over their bondage and suffering. Why it is that people possessing this fundamental and pure mind should still cling to illusions and doom themselves to wander about in a world of delusion and suffering, covering their own Buddha nature while all about them is light of Buddha's wisdom.